Did you know that rituals are still taking place inside the chambers of the Great Pyramid? Or that the so-called ancient Egyptian historic heritage doesn't even belong to the modern country of Egypt? Or that the pyramid that you see here is not even the actual important historic site at hand? This episode, as usual, will cover very wide variety of topics, and most of them again will be important, and yet they will be under the radar, so to say. If we limit our scope of search with questions like what model of lasers did the aliens use to drill these holes in the stones, then actually we may miss the main point, because we will never understand the mentality of the people who built all this. And that's why we'll not find out also how did they build it. They were simply not obsessed with tools like us. So how did they build these huge pyramids and temples? Let's have a close look at the actual building blocks. What on earth is this? Very oddly shaped building blocks. So did they really shape them like with tools to have these strange forms and fit with each other in such a manner? Hard to believe. Now let's select a more neat looking spot. At first glance, these may look like standard shape form blocks, but if you pay attention at the places where they meet, marked with red lines, you will actually notice that we are talking about not very obvious but definitely polygonal stonemasonry, because the surfaces between the blocks are non-standard, they don't repeat each other, and yet the blocks match. In case we are talking about hewn work, with tools, it would barely make any sense, because they will have to shape each and every block individually to fit so many others around with a unique shape. And taking into consideration the complexity which would that involve, and to add to all this the number of the stones, I think the conclusion of all this would be that no sensible person would incur such a misery upon himself. But if we assume that this was cast or grown, then everything will make much more sense. As far as casting, the best source for more information is the absolutely brilliant work of the French scholar Davidovitz, which includes testing samples and even demonstration videos showing practically how could whatever has been cast could have been done relatively easily using free or cheap, readily available natural materials found in abundance in the Nile Delta. And to avoid any misunderstanding about the work of Davidovitz, it's very important to note that he does not claim that all the pyramids and temples of the land of Osiris were cast out of geopolymer, but only part of them. So the work of Davidovitz is not a solution to all mysteries. It will only help us, maybe, to put the puzzle together. And very often people show inclusions of shells of marine animals included in the stone, and they claim that this debunks the claims of Davidovitz. No, they do not debunk his work, because, first of all, what was the problem of using this type of material in their mixture? There is no problem. They could have just put it and then cast with such a mixture. Or the samples which are shown with such shells of marine animals, etc. They could be hewn stone indeed. Don't forget that Davidovich doesn't claim that all the stonework in the land of Osiris was cast, just part of it. Here we see remains of ancient mortar between the stones. It looks exactly like the stones. Apparently they knew very well how to prepare such a mixture. The very shape of countless building blocks really leaves the impression that they were molded and not hewn. Doesn't this look to you like a stroke left in a soft material? It does. So the stone could have been softened, or this line could have been drawn during the casting when the mixture was not yet hardened. So stone softening is a very popular topic, but we should not be narrow-minded and assume that in all scenarios we had a stone and then it got softened in a magical way. No, maybe it was much simpler. We had a soft mixture. Also, many sacred sites have very interesting floors, perfectly leveled. So the standard way this mystery is formulated is what kind of lasers did they use to level it in such a digital way? Maybe they used alien technology, but maybe they simply poured the mixture. According to some people who have done field studies, such floors fit so well with the curvy terrain below that talking about hewn stone in this case is simply inappropriate. Now, casting is not the only way to have soft and easily manageable stone. Growing is yet another option. To understand what I'm talking about, please watch this video of mine. It's a cornerstone important video for a lot that you will hear in my videos from this date on September 2017. Sadly, this video about growing stone in ancient times didn't at all attract the attention which I expected it would do. Although the information in it is extremely important, it wasn't appealing to that many people. I noticed this psychological effect that if something that I present has anything to do with aliens or reptilians, it just so much resonates with everybody. Although the concept of growing stone and growing buildings is far more exotic and mystically colored compared to the stories of the Greys and the reptilians, people simply didn't even grasp the full story around it because they're programmed from the mass media even about what mystical should be. So that's why I found this amazing image of these interesting creatures. Hopefully people will pay attention what kind of stone stickers they have around their heads. Was that also hewn or glued? Unlikely, I would say. It looks more like something that has been pasted over, layered over. Now, hopefully, by the magical aura of these sacred snakes, finally my message will get around. But all this could have been grown stone paste. This is again the desert of Egypt. Again, we see the typical stone balls. This was grown stone. I would say at this point 99% sure. Is it really by chance that we see such stone balls in the vicinity of the magnificent ancient constructions in the land of Osiris? Did some stone spores, stone seeds fall here by chance, carried by the wind? That is possible, but also it is possible that here stone was grown, or experiments were done with growing stone, and later this material or the knowledge of the experiments was implemented in growing things, growing buildings, using material readily found below the feet of the builders. And by the way, don't you find it a bit odd the way this pyramid has been stripped of its casing? Allegedly by simple folks who did not understand its historic value and were just hungry to get building materials for their homes. If that was really the case, would they climb high in the skies and remove the casing over there and leave the most easily accessible casing at ground level? And why would they go after the casing only anyway, if they were just looking for any building material which is easily accessible? What about the countless standard size blocks at the bottom of the pyramid? They basically lay loose. They are waiting for looters to take them. But instead of that, these allegedly uncivilized looters, they went for oddly shaped blocks, which are much harder to access. And these blocks, because of their odd shape and supposedly harder variety of stone, they will be much harder to use in common construction of simple homes. Or was it really savage looters who removed the casing, or was it controlled demolition? Because in the previous episode we heard about historic testimonials that the full pyramid was covered with very, very ancient writings. Was this actually an organized looting? Organized for the purpose to remove the uncomfortable for those who organized it writing on the pyramid? So it seems the Great Pyramid of Giza is a fully functional site for magic rituals. The tourists are allowed only daytime, and at nighttime heavily armed guards make sure that the public has no access. So I found out from a young Russian man, a very intelligent young boy, who lived some 2 years, I believe, in Alexandria, that for sure at night there are initiation rituals